If Carmen could reflect on all the versions of her life, from grand operas to playful parodies, she would likely sigh, sharpen the intensity of her gaze with eyeliner, and declare, "No, I'll tell my story myself." Then she would step onto the stage in 5 personas, because one Carmen is never enough. Librettist and choreographer Mukarram Avakri introduced Ma Carmen to Astana. In this intricate heroine, the ballet master uncovered 5 distinct identities. 5 women, 5 radiant facets, elusive and ever-evolving. They debate but do not compete. They coexist, like a fiery inner dialogue that refuses to be silenced.
Вообще было большим удовольствием впятером работать над этой партией, скажем так, партия одна, но нас 5.
It was an incredible experience working on this role as a group of 5. Though the role is singular, there are 5 of us. We were always together almost throughout rehearsals.
Несмотря на те противоречия, конфликты, которые возникают между героинями, все равно мы...
This was both a challenge and advantage, because despite the contradictions and conflicts between the heroines, in the end we form a unified whole embodying the essence of femininity. Complex, paradoxical, yet strong, free and complete. Not only do her inner facets clash, but we as individuals also navigate our own dynamics, sometimes disagreeing, sometimes finding our edges don't quite align. But ultimately this performance is about the fact that despite everything, each of us is a whole and has the right to express ourselves, the right to be who we truly are.
Каждый из нас является целостным и имеет право этого самовыражения, право быть собой.
And the same with Salome, not the one teasing John's severed head, but the one exhausted from being someone's biblical interpretation. Here Salome doesn't just dance. She scorches the floor with her gaze and steps into a space where no one expected her. Two one-act ballets, Ma Carmen and Salome, celebrate womanhood, revealing its many facets: complex, strong, wary, fiery, wounding, and vulnerable.
Во-первых, я хочу сказать, что я очень ценю.
First of all, I want to say that I deeply appreciate your choreographer, Mukarram Avakri. I genuinely believe she is an artist of international caliber. Productions like hers are rare even in Europe.
Знаете, постановки я даже в Европе.
Mukarram Avakri is not only incredibly talented but has a unique perspective, a distinct vision. Each of her works is fascinating in its own way, always original.
Талантливый хореограф, у нее своя оптика, свое видение.
She never repeats herself, whether in narrative or choreography. She constantly evolves, always bringing something new. That's why whenever I hear about a new production by Mukarram Avakri, I know it will be something extraordinary, an original, compelling performance.
Так и по хореографической концепции она все время разная.
Carmen escaped from Mérimée novella long ago. She slipped out of Bizet's score, left the classical opera, and found a home in pop culture, advertising, even t-shirts, everywhere. She became a myth, a widely recognized, almost stencil-like figure. And then, suddenly, Ma Carmen appears. Not a remake, but rather a long-awaited fusion of all versions, where Carmen has always been seen through others' eyes. Now, it feels as though she's finally seen through her own.
Я думаю, их объединяет свобода в проявлении своих чувств.
I believe what unites them is their freedom in expressing emotions and actions. It's their authenticity. Whether she's capricious, distant, or desperate for love, she's a woman and she should be accepted as she is. and what each of them is capable of for love.
Каждая ради любви. Я думаю, они бы встретились.
I think they would meet for philosophical debate to discuss, to understand, to decide. I believe they would ultimately come together.
Я думаю, что они бы вместе объединились.
On stage, the dance mirrors inner turmoil. One Carmen carries the exhaustion of others' expectations. Another thrives on the thrill of being misunderstood. The third simply wants to live, without explanations, without looking back. Mukarram Avakri achieves the impossible, stripping away the plot, removing man, leaving only Carmen and her emotions. A full spectrum of feelings expressed through movement and color.
Они как-то так откликнулись визуально. Кармен в черном, в красном, конечно.
They responded visually in a striking way. Carmen in black, in red, of course, as that color has always followed her. Carmen in yellow, embodying sincerity, serenity, and unconditionality. Carmen in pink, leaving behind unanswered questions, playful.
Всегда оставляет за собой вопросы без ответов, игриво, кокетливо.
And Carmen in blue, representing calculation, cold-bloodedness, perhaps even self-interest. In that sense, she carries something almost masculine.
Корысть. Вот она в этом плане, в ней такое, наверное, есть что-то мужское.
I perform the role of the so-called Black Carmen, or Carmen in Black, which, in my opinion, is the most intriguing role in this production. She represents the shadow side of Carmen's personality, the part usually hidden from view, the one she prefers to keep inside. This role is deeply emotional and demands immense focus, energy, and dedication. While the ballet itself isn't particularly long or technically difficult, it's emotionally exhausting for me.
Большой концентрации, большой отдачи силы и энергии.
The ballet lasts about an hour. In that time, every woman in the audience finds a piece of herself in the heroine. And interestingly, throughout the entire performance, the word love is never spoken, because this story isn't about love at all.
Когда я узнала, что Астана балет, помимо легенд...
When I found out that Astana Ballet, alongside its legendary productions, was also staging its own version of Carmen, I was a bit surprised. But these two completely different interpretations. Absolutely. Take Alonso's iconic production, for example. It presents a textbook Carmen, centered on love, passion, and jealousy. Mukarram's vision, however, is something else entirely. Apart from the name and the musical foundation, everything is new. She seems to have taken Carmen as a symbol of femininity itself. A woman, a true woman, is multifaceted. She can be vulnerable, she can be strong, she can be cunning. Every woman in her essence carries many faces. And a strong woman like Carmen always cries alone. That's why the central image in this production is Carmen in black. Once again, I want to emphasize there are no symbolic or narrative parallels here. Carmen is entirely new concept beyond geography, literature, or ethnicity. She's not a gypsy, she's simply a woman. A modern woman seen in different dimensions.
Современная женщина в разных ипостасях.
These two ballets are rarely staged together. Carmen evokes southern passion. Castanets defines the tobacco factory. Salome belongs to the east. Veil dances a severed head, religious tension. Yet at Astana Ballet, they share the same evening and it makes perfect sense. Because if Ma Carmen is a ballet about a woman saying no, then Salome is about what happens when they say I want. Mukarram Avakri's productions merge into a single portrait. Not a retelling of classic plots, but an exploration of inner landscapes. On this stage, Salome is no victim. She embodies the raw essence of womanhood, overflowing with emotions, devoid of fear, fully aware of her desires. She steps forward, not with a coy smile, but with a certainty that every movement teeters on the edge of a precipice.
Просто хочу сказать, что танец, само движение есть, наверное, самый выразительный.
Dance movement itself is perhaps the most expressive language. It is emotional, it requires no explanation.
Не требуется разъяснений.
That's why it's often called universal, beyond words, beyond language.
Вне языка, вне слов, я думаю, он понятен
I believe it resonates on an intuitive, even subconscious level.
на бессознательном уровне. Поэтому любовь,
Love, passion, tenderness, grief, despair, all of it can be conveyed through the language of dance.
скорбь, отчаяние, я думаю, все это можно, безусловно, передать через язык танца.
On stage, Carmen and Salome. But the true heroine of the evening might be sitting right here, in the audience. Somewhere in the 12th row, in slightly uncomfortable shoes, watching not just the dancers, but herself. Because at some point, she catches herself thinking, I've done that too. Slammed a door like Carmen, waited breathlessly like Salome. And now she sits there, watching a ballet, a story about them, but really about a story about her. Carmen and Salome do not seek applause. There are no dazzling moves that make you want to shout bravo. These are not performances in the conventional sense. They are, if you will, internal investigations, where you are both suspect, witness, and jury. Carmen teaches how to become an object. Salome reveals how easily one can lose themselves in the pursuit of being desired.
This performance is captivating from start to finish. As for why these two ballets were combined over 2 evenings, I believe it makes perfect sense. There is a clear logic behind it. First, both are stories about women, about powerful, faithful women. Salome is rooted in biblical literature, while Carmen exists in various interpretations. 2 ballets, 2 perspectives on femininity. Second, both are one-act productions. Despite their contrasting styles, both in choreography and conceptual imagery, their pairing creates a compelling dialogue. This fusion of performances reveals the many artistic dimensions of Mukarram Avakhri's talent.
Mukarram Avakhri is unafraid to break tradition. Here you'll see movements that would make a classical ballet instructor faint. Yet, as you watch, you believe this is exactly how a woman might move if she had been denied the freedom to be herself for centuries. The dancers shift between pointy shoes and bare feet. Sometimes they move as if in hysteria. Other times they simply stand still. And in that pause, in that almost nothing, there is everything. The audience holds its breath because silence often unsettles more than a scream. Even the costumes serve as an extension of thought. Fabric either constrains or exposes, but never remains indifferent.
Спектакль вообще для меня очень особенный, потому что
This performance is deeply special to me. The concept behind it, the way it was brought to life, is both inspiring and liberating.
Потому что мы привыкли видеть Кармен, она
We are used to seeing Carmen as a fixed, iconic figure, one that immediately conjures certain images and symbols in our minds.
Но наша авторская версия в интерпретации
We all think we know who she is. But Mukarram Avakhri's interpretation is something entirely different. It's about Carmen, not just a character, but as a woman, as an individual trying to break free from the weight of centuries.
от того груза, накопленного столетиями, от
She sheds the clichés imposed upon her and attempts to express herself anew. I believe this ballet is significant not just for dancers and choreographers, but for audiences and especially for women.
очень важен для артистов, для хореографов, для зрителей и вообще особенно для женщин, мне кажется.
The performance ends. Carmen does not triumph. Salome does not repent. No one emerges transformed, but someone perhaps becomes more real. And maybe that is the greatest achievement of this ballet, if for even a moment someone in the audience recognizes a part of themselves in the truths revealed by these legendary characters.